Welcome back to the ULCS. I'm joined by many troop acts from Vitality who had one hell of a game on that Jinx, but it seemed like a lot of people are still trying to ban you out. There were 3 bans from Unicorns, and why do you think teams are still doing this to you?
I think they don't have that much of a clue of how botlane works, because right now I think you have a lot of picks. You know, you have Varus, Jinx, Ashe, Inclusive, you have Caitlyn, you have Sivir, you have Tristana, and many, many more, you know? Like, I can even play Ziggs botlane, right? So basically, people are just a bit scared of playing some things that they are not that comfortable, but I really like new stuff. So the more they ban me out, the more I bring something new out. So I'm completely fine by that.
Well, it's fantastic to hear. Now, I'm always a big fan of the Jinx. Can you talk me through it a little bit more, like why you focus particularly on this champion, especially on 8.4?
I mean, we knew their AD carry. Samux has a really low champion pool. Like, we legit banned 2 champions, and we know this guy's going to Ezreal, you know? Like, it's, you go to OPGG, you go to what he played on this so far in this season, and he played Ezreal, Tristana a lot, and he also played Zyrakan. So basically, you ban 2, you know what's coming up, and into Ezreal, it's always skill matchup, because if he doesn't hit Qs, you're winning. So basically, I can pick anything whatsoever. They choose to ban Kog'Maw and Varus. I choose pick Jinx because it was a scaling pick that I can also win lane and push lane. So it was pretty free scaling lane for me, and I think that was the best choice by far.
All according to plan, man. So I guess I got one more for you guys. With that win, it looks like Vitality's back in form. You guys are taking names early on in the laning phase. You're pushing things in. You're playing with a lot of confidence. So right now, as a rookie player, as a Vitality player, because Vitality hasn't made the playoffs in a long time, how big is it for you guys to be on the cusp of qualifying for the playoffs?
I mean, for our team, it's fantastic, right? It was our main goal, like going to playoffs in the first season, because we are a team that has a lot of rookies, and even Gillis didn't play LCS for 1 year. So it was like our main goal, but when the season started and we went like 7-1, we set up a new goal, and it's like to get the semi buyout. So basically we won the first, second place. Fnatic is 2 games away. I'm not expecting them to drop any game in the last 4, but who knows? And G2 is 1 game away, but we played them. So far, if we actually rely on ourselves, we can beat them, and then we can go to tiebreaker to get the second place and get the semi-finals buyout.
Well, I like that you guys have the confidence now. I got one more thing to tell you before I send it off. You are actually the player of the game, that Jinx performance. How's that feel?
It feels great that they don't give it to Jizuki Echo.
Some things change. All right, now we're going to go ahead and send it back to the analyst, so take it away.
Thank you very much, Pyra. I mean, always good to hear from him. Chasing G2. I love the confidence from Vitality, man. All it takes is a couple wins, and they're right back at it.
Yeah, just win every single game. You're going to probably get second place then, or at least that tiebreaker he talks about.
I like it. I want to see the tiebreaker, man. I want to see him force it. Well, in our next matchup, we've got Giants going up against Schalke. Giants have been out of the playoffs since 2016. They even got relegated to Challenger last year. And now in their return to the EU LCS, they put themselves in a pretty good position, a pretty good spot to contest for playoffs. But it was a pretty rough week last week. 0-2 for these guys, 0-2 for their opponents. That said, Unicorns of Love just lost. This is their chance to get a lead. They're tied up in the scoreboard right now. Now they can pull ahead if they find a win here.
Yeah, and the remaining schedule with Schalke, then Misfits, Fnatic, and Splice. It's one of the toughest schedules you can have. And obviously the Schalke game, the one they're playing right now, might actually be the easiest of all 4 of them. So if they win here, they're on a good track, but they still have to at least take down one of these other top teams. And it's still tough for Giants, but they've done a lot of good work.
I mean, it's very hard. But we look back to last week, we look at their match versus G2, and I liked so much of what I saw. Deficio, so much innovation, so many new picks, and yes, they were winning.
They should have won this one. I love they put Ruin on Kled. They're like, listen, we know you can play carries, we know you want to be aggressive. They get like this diving the backline comp to shut down perks. They had everything going in their favor. And then some of the fights we're seeing now started happening where it wasn't really Giants engaging it properly. G2 started delaying the game more and more. And sadly for Giants, the comp got a little bit too hard to execute. But I still love the fact they're trying to play more aggressive early to mid-game and really utilize Ruin.
Yeah, utilize those individual player strengths, something that we always love to see when you have someone who can play those carry champions. Make sure that it comes through for you. Now, on the opposite side, we have Schalke. This is a lineup that had a lot of hype around them before the split.
Because of us.
Well, yeah, kind of because of us. Sorry. 8 weeks in, however. They are at the bottom of the standings. They're currently on a 3-game losing streak, so I have to ask you, Deficio, what's actually going wrong here?
It's a lot of things, but I think the main thing for me is that Schalke Schalke are trying to play this perfect game of League of Legends. And it's not necessary, because when you try and play the perfect game, it becomes less about the individual talent and more about the shot calling and the macro knowledge of a team. And we just have to say it. Right now, if you are Schalke, you don't have a good shot caller in-game. You clearly are not smarter than the other team, so you end up playing this really slow style, and your carries are not set up to succeed.
Not only are the carries not set up to succeed, but we see that, like, for whatever reason, even when they get the perfect game going for 15 or 20 minutes, everything falls apart when individual members get caught out.
Yeah, and that's then another problem, and one of the reasons they picked up so many losses, because they've had so many close games where it then came down that one team fight, that one moment, and then nuke or upset, they get caught out, they die, and they start losing games, they lose confidence, the decisiveness just drops down. Like, we have seen a lot of questionable moments from Schalke, from players like Nuke and Upset, but I still think when I look at how the team's been trying to play for 8 weeks, that's where I have the problem. When you're not changing anything for so many weeks. Giants, when they lose, they change. They try and play more early game. They pick different stuff. Schalke, when they lose, next day, they pick the same stuff. No creativity, no X factor, and then you look at a team that hasn't realized, or coaching staff that didn't realize for 8 weeks that on stage, this doesn't work. I don't care what happens in scrims. It's irrelevant. Stage is what matters.
Look, and I love when teams try to pursue the perfect game, but at a certain point, man, it's just a bad relationship. You need to let it go and move on. You got to play to those individual strengths. You got to make stuff happen, but Deficio, you can see their schedule. It is not an easy one. They're like Giants in the sense that they have some tough opponents, G2 Esports and Fnatic ahead of them. But can they do it? If they play to that individual style, if they show off Nuke Duck, Upset, give people the opportunity to shine.
If I see a pick and ban phase where Visichachi, the lost son up in the top lane, the spring split MVP of last year, actually gets a playmaker where he can be aggressive and the play around him, and if I see Nuke Duck on something where he can pop off, like that LeBlanc game against G2 Esports, I could actually see Schalke beat Giants today. I could see Schalke get some confidence in that kind of play style where it's about the individual talent and not about the beautiful macro game, and then maybe they can get momentum and start snowballing. It's not realistic. I don't think they're going to make playoffs, but at least I want to see one game where I see Visichachi of last year and I see a team playing around that kind of player. I'm done watching him on boring tanks.
Let's see that spark of life. Let's see those Coles. Let's see what they can do. Well, this is it for Schalke. They are in a desperate need for a win in their fight for playoffs. Let's see if they can take down Giants as we leave it to Quickshot and Vedius.
Thank you very much, Dracos and Deficio. Let's jump straight into the rosters. On the blue side of this game, we do, of course, have the Giants lineup. Both teams on stage today went 0-2 last week on the 8.4 debut, and I had so much expectation for Joko. Tracker's knife removed, early game ganking jungler, and he broke my heart, Vedius, and didn't make it work.
For me, he still ganked a lot. He still
didn't
Joker.
work.
It didn't work. No, you're right. He definitely did not have the greatest of performances. But when you go up against someone like Pride, who spends a lot more time farming than they do ganking, I feel like his probability of success should inevitably rise coming into week 8.
Exactly. And of course, the rest of the roster on the Schalke squad, Upset, Nuke Duck, Chachi. You know, after that very impassioned rant from Deficio about tanks, I'm looking down Chachi's most played champs. Cho'Gath.
Tank.
Nah, Ornn, Trundle.
So many tanks.
He's undefeated on Gangplank. Camille, sorry, 2-0.
Wait,
Camille,
carry and he wins
2-0.
games?
I know. I'm going to ignore the Gangplank 0-2. That doesn't count. However, let's see what they do. Of course, it is the sort of tank top meta, so that doesn't really help a lot.
And I love that you mentioned Chachi too, because for me, Ruin was one of the big players that really stood out for Giants last week. Very early on into the split, every week I remember going onto the analyst desk and saying, Ruin is the player you got to watch. Ruin is the guy that you need to be keeping your eyes on.
I know, it was quite frustrating, but it was also true.
It was so true, and he was one of the big guys that I was considering to be rookie of the split. And last week, I felt like we got to see, again, the carry potential of Ruin. So I want to see both Chachi and Ruin put on carries. I want to see them butt heads. I want to see who can come out on top.
As soon as that Gnar pick for Ruin went a little bit away, things started to slow down. Let's see what they decide to land on. Sion finds himself in the ban pool this time around, along with Kha'Zix, Skarner, and Ryze. So a couple of those top tier picks. Anything screaming out to you that maybe should be banned with these two teams in consideration?
Well, Betsy's most played mid laner is Azir. 7 games on that so far throughout the split. Feel like it could be a safe one unless Schalke have some kind of answer. Joko, taking him off his Zac could be an option, but we've seen how Memento can draft things like the Kha'Zix as an answer. Olaf, I think, is a throwback to when Nukta used to play with Joko, and all he could ever play was Olaf, who said, you know what, let's take him off it.
And of course, we saw it last week as well.
Also true.
And I think that's the second game in a row that it's banned now in the ULCS. We've seen it played a whole bunch. Actually saw it played in LCK to phenomenal effect.
Peanuts did have a great game on it.
He really smashed. And of course, now where did they decide to go? There was a hover there of the Sejuani. It is, of course, Joko's most played champion. It's going to be pivoted away to the Xayah instead. Second time this split that we're going to see Steel back on that champion.
I feel like that we heard it from Deficio earlier on in the day, and we've been seeing it much more, much higher value on securing a strong 2 versus 2 down in the bottom. Things like the Tristana, the Caitlyn, the Varus, the Xayah, all big power picks the teams are going to look to draft early, and this implies the Giants are looking for that Xayah Rakan down the bottom lane.
Yeah, we saw the Caitlyn out of upset last week. If I recall correctly, it was into an Ashe lane. He did relatively well, but couldn't carry just enough. Pride's going to be locking in the Sejuani in just a few seconds' time. 2 wins, 2 losses. He's gone 7, 4, and 36. Fairly impressive KDA, but he's going to need to use that team fighting kit a little bit more. I like to look at Pride, and I think of him as sort of a herbivore jungler. I like to see him spend a lot of time farming, a lot of time in the jungle, a lot of time counter jungling, and maybe less impactful in the ganking and the kills department, whereas Joko, for me, is a little bit the opposite. I like to see him when he's hunter killing, and that's why I like the Jarvan.
Yeah, I think it makes very much sense. In the sense of that, too, I feel like Pride doesn't really have many independent thoughts about where to be and how to be proactive. He's often there at the beck and call of many of his laners. And when you have individuals like Nukduck who often demand a lot of resources and like to play the way he does, I think that he can fit into this team, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of the Pride from the Challenger Series and from his Roccat days.
Eloquently put, Mr. Day. Very well worded. And look, there's no time left to faff around. It's stand up, step up, or shut up and go home for Schalke. 5-9, there's no room around them.
I mean, think about it. This team was expected to be like a top 4 contender by many analysts, and you just looked at the star-filled roster and you looked at its growth potential, and now they're fighting to just barely, perhaps, scrape playoffs. They are currently sitting at the bottom of our standing, so a win here would be fantastic for their confidence and could be the momentum to put them back on the upswing.
So difficult as well. They've got tough teams ahead, G2, H2K, and Vitality, but they need to get through Giants first. Okay, next round of bans. Galio and Veigar taken away, so Betsy's going to lose some of the more obvious answers to Azir. Tom Kench is removed, so Vander's not going to get that sort of insta-free lane. Braum is still up and available, so that's kind of where my head's at. What about the next round of picks now that we see that banned?
Over that of the Anivia. I think that when you're looking at kind of bot lanes you could go for, I feel like saving... Ooh, interesting, because I would have thought slightly more towards something like an Alistar, often considered a pretty good pick into the Rakan, but I can see how the Black Shield would also act as an effective deterrent to the engage tools that a Rakan can provide, but I feel like it doesn't offer a lot when getting engaged on by someone like a Jarvan. His ability to lock you into the pit and trap you down, I think is something that Schalke still need to be concerned of, even though it could give you a little bit more laning power in the early levels.
Black Shield will help one person. The Rakan quickness will catch everybody.
Very
so
true.
I want to see the target selection for Vander and how quickly you can decide on, you know, who's going to get that Black Shield, whether it's going to be Nuktak or Upset later in the game. And we talked about Ruins. Nah, he's locked it in, and it's blind. Visit Chachi will have some answers as Betsy locked in the Vlad to go against that Azir.
But what surprised me is I thought we were going to see a Vlad up in the top lane, but obviously, because they were hovering over the Echo, we just saw an Echo into the Azir. Could have been a good answer, but instead, they move it down to mid. Betsy going back to his old form a little bit, where he was known for playing things like the Swain and the Vladimir during the regular season. Putting him on a bit of a comfort pick can be good into the Azir as well, which we can explore more in-game. But what we are seeing is, again, return to form for Giants and a lot of strong laners. I'm expecting early leads, and I'm expecting a lot of ganks from Joko.
Okay, what about the Schalke side? Ornn rounds out the team composition. Ornn versus Nah, it's a matchup we have seen quite a few times already. And we know the impact. I like the long range engage that Ornn and Sejuani will give you, the rooting power of the Dark Bindings. There's a lot of long range initiation on Schalke's side.
My biggest concern with Schalke's draft is, as a composition, it is very clear what it is trying to do. It is strong and it can work. But in the current meta, where there is so much more focus on Barons, there is so much more focus on getting early leads and translating that into securing an objective which results in you breaking the opposition's base, this is not the draft that does that. To make this work, they're going to have to play on an extremely high level, and this is exactly what Deficio was saying on the analyst desk. He does not believe that Schalke are able to do that, and so this is the kind of draft where they're trying once again to play a style that they have done all split.
Yeah, and that's the question of whether they can now pull it off, right? Week 8, only 2 weeks to go. One of the big things we talk about, and Amazing spoke a lot about it last week as well, and we do it all fair, how some teams will go for that 50-50 play. Some teams will go for the 40-60 play, a la Unicorns.
Yes.
For Schalke, it has to be a 70-30 percentage chance that it'll work in their favor. Maybe even 80-20 before it feels like they will commit. And we'll see if they're going to get a chance today. It's blue versus blue as Giants take on Schalke. A battle near the bottom of the table, a battle to break the loss streaks. And honestly, a battle to keep the playoff hopes and dreams alive. Potentially on both squads here. Giants were given a small blessing by Unicorns losing a game. Unicorns were hot on their heels. And for Schalke, they've still got to catch up to both Unicorns and Giants, and we'll see what sort of percentages that will increase. The stats on your screen right now between the junglers. I was very excited to see how the junglers would adapt to 8.4 with the jungle changes, and in terms of jungle proximity, you can see Joko spent a lot of time, 50% of his time around his laners during the laning phase, but he got nothing done. And that's the effectiveness we were talking about earlier today, Verius.
Yes, but he is often very active. He sacrifices a lot of farm to try and be involved in setting up a lot of his plays. And you can just see the difference when you look at someone like Pride, who focuses on himself, focuses on making sure that he offers value to the team, and then arriving when he is required.
Yeah.
And that is why he is able to get these things like the 1.5 KDA, because when the team tells him to come, they know he can make a play, they know he can do something, and therefore he arrives when he is supposed to, rather than being the one to try and create the advantages for his team to then capitalize.
I'm going to go back to that analogy I made earlier of herbivore jungler, carnivore jungler. You can see how it works out. Now, did you know I'm South African, Verius?
I was aware.
Okay, fantastic. And you know in South Africa we go on like safaris and we look at wild animals
I've been on one in Kenya.
There we go.
Great.
Fantastic. They have lions and tigers. Forget Kenya, because I'm from South Africa.
Right.
And when you see those carnivores going on a hunt and they don't succeed, it makes them very sad.
That's very
And
true.
if they keep failing those hunts, that's how the pride falls apart. So Joko, as a carnivorous jungler, cannot afford to fail the ganks this game, or his pride will be let down. Get it?
I was going to let it sit for a bit to see if the crowd clapped. They didn't,
No.
so I was then going to save you and say, ha ha, great one, Trevor. Love that joke. Let's get back into the game, though. Talk about some League of Legends. Joko already looking for a gank down the bottom lane. Level 2.
Oh, Mufasa would be so proud. The flag and drag will be blocked by the black shield. Going to time out in a moment or two. Summoner heal is used. Next target is Vanda. Flag and drag flashed away from. Targamos goes in for the initiation. Ignite is down. Vanda turns around with the Dark Binding. And Joko abandons the kill. Donates it to Upset. What was that?
It was so good, and then it was so bad. Upset and Vanda gets the level 2, which means that he has both the Black Shield and the Dark Binding, and they chain the CC perfectly.
And the audience is erupting in Schalke calls. What was this communication
So
from
look
Giants?
at Schalke, they're already level 2. Giants have not hit that point yet. And the key thing here is, look, Giants want to get the Summoner spell out. The moment Vanda flashes, Joko leaves, Targamas goes in. The communication breaks down because Steelback and Joko cannot follow that. Everything has been used, and it allows them to use the Dark Binding into the Cupcake chain, allowing Schalke to get themselves first blood and shut down that early hunt from Giants.
Unbelievable. There's 1,000 gold lead already. The kill picked up by Upset. Now, of course, Vanda's flashes on cooldown. So, and he's a Morgana, so fairly easy to re-gank if that lane keeps pushing forward. But that might be the sort of play that Schalke need, that initial advantage and confidence builder. And also for Joko, A little bit of a facepalm moment. But to be fair, Steelback was the first one to peel away, so it's miscommunication. It's team decision that you can't really put it all on one person. That was a great black shield there onto Upsets.
So another big thing here is that Pride, while that gank was going on, immediately went to counter jungle because he noticed that Joko had started blue, went straight to red, had both buffs, but was only level 2. Therefore, there were Raptors for him to steal, there was an opportunity for him to get a bit of deep vision down, and now he's got a full level onto Joko, which is going to be very valuable in terms of early power. If they meet in the jungle once again, or if they meet for an early gank, Pride should have that experience advantage that he can hold over his opposition.
Ooh, very good initiation here from Vizicachi. Gonna chunk down Ruin a whole lot. Doesn't look like there's any threat of a kill just yet, but I'm looking down the keystones, by the way. Fleet of Footwork on Ruin's Gnar, Unsealed Spellbook for Betsy's Vlad, and of course Glacial Augment for the Morgana down the bottom lane. Are you surprised by any of those, or pretty much makes sense? What do you reckon?
A little. Glacial Augment, we've naturally been seeing a lot more on supports, but usually those have been melee supports like Taric and Braum and Tahm Kench. Surprised to see it on a Morgana. Let's see how much it helps as Joko looks for another gank. He can see how overextended the bottom lane is. No flash, but decides to disway.
Yeah, I mean, if Rafiki were nearby, he'd say, be very careful. Be wary. You might be left with a scar from that last initiation. And then there would be a few people laughing at him. And nobody wants that to happen, so Joko
for
backs
some
away.
reason, my brain instantly went to the song of Lion King, and I thought, I'm going to offend a lot of people if I sing that.
I know,
So I decided to avoid it, but in my
almost-
head, I sung it beautifully.
I almost spoke in Rafiki's accent, and I was like, nope, you cannot do that one. But I will move away from the Lion King jokes, I promise. As Schalke are 1,000 gold up, they've started this game well. It's a BF sword as well as cloth armor for Upset already. So going back into that lane, with that additional armor, luckily for Giants, they've been able to farm up the same amount of CS. So Steelback will at least be able to trade the same sort of damage with BF sword versus BF swords.
Yeah, but that early armor, quite interesting. Typically not what you see from a Caitlyn. Usually during the laning phase, she has pretty significant range advantage, which is where her advantages come from. The fact that she can constantly out-harass her opposition. But I think she's doing it because she's wary of another jungle gank from the Jarvan. Yeah. And the reason why Jarvan is so lethal in the early game and why you'll often see junglers run the Electrocute is because of the armor penetration that he gets on his Q. And if he's able to land the knockup and you have that armor pen, then you do so much damage. So buying early armor just mitigates some of that burst, and it just makes getting out of those ganks a little bit easier.
Especially if you want to play forward. If Upset continues on those charges, you're talking about knockups, and while you were talking about it, Vizicachi got another, charge onto Ruin, doing very well in that top lane. He's up 8 CS in the Ornn versus Gnar matchup. Ruin's come back to lane with his Merc trades completed. And this is one of the few games where we've actually not looked at the mid lane yet at all. Vlad versus Azir, I guess it's farming lane really in the early stages.
Yes, very much so. The cool thing about Vladimir into the lane though is because of the amount of innate sustain that he does have, he often doesn't just get pushed out by the Azir, and his wave clear is actually not that bad. So you'll notice it's actually Nuktuk that's sitting here clearing the wave after the Vladimir. But the key thing in this early game is the fact that so much pressure is being generated from the Schalke bot lane. This tower is slowly going down, and we haven't seen any return ganks from Joko either. He's even going to lose his red buff, and Pride isn't that worried because of the pressure that's being generated bot. So Schalke controlling the entire bot side of the map, they can set themselves up for a very early Infernal Drake, and this is a great early start for the Schalke squad.
Exceptional. I mean, that's the ace in the hole being used as well. On the side of Upset, he channeled it just off screen. Targamas was chunked down. Tower first blood plus actual first blood will be secured by 8 minutes. And it's a 2,000 gold lead for Schalke. And it all stems from turning around a single gank. Now Joker's going to sniff around here, actually going to rush straight in. Got himself that Balmy Cinder. Flash is available for Vander. 90 caliber net has been used. Summon a heal. Flash for flash. Double knock up into the Feather Storm. That's a kill onto Upset. A follow-up onto Vander. And Joko strikes back.
Very clean gank. Would have liked to have seen it earlier from Joko, but regardless, it has happened. Love the fact that he leads with the ultimate and is able to get the follow-up knock-up afterwards. Now Giants looking for a bit of an invade.
Oh man, it's a fight everywhere. Top laners were battling, but it's Pride that's in trouble. Joko's trying to return revenge. Well, the damage earlier, flash forward from Pride to get over the knock-up. And Joko gets a double kill for his team, a blue buff steal, and we didn't quite see how that top lane trade played out, but no flashes down, so just a trade there of Gnar ultimate for Vizicachi's HP.
Now, when we get the replay up, I want to keep track of how long Upset and Vanda stay after taking the tower. Here we go. So notice, like, the tower's gone. Rather than back, they stick around for another wave, and this allows Joko to come in ulti first, force them both to flash, and that makes the follow-up so much easier. Vanda being a bit of a scumbag support Black Shields himself rather than his AD carry, and unfortunately for them, without any escapes left, it becomes a very easy kill. Now Betsy making his way up topside.
Oh, Vizicachi's running for his life. Defensive flash, Hemoplague will pop, plus the Ignite down to 100 HP. And Vizicachi does survive, gets the flash and Ignite out of Betsy at the cost of his own, and that damage will, the tower will take a lot of damage from Ruin's Gnar.
Will be the go signal for Schalke to kick off this Drake. Giants should be aware that this is occurring, but with Joko holding the middle lane, I don't know if they're going to run the risk of trying to steal. The fact that he's basing indicates that they will not.
Yeah, looking at the mini-map, absolutely nobody's nearby. Thank you for the vision toggle. Our observers just highlighting what Giants could or could not see. There's a couple of deep wards, but of course, because Schalke committed a lot of resources down in the bottom half of the map, it's going to allow Joko a lot of time to deal with Shelly and Rift Herald and be able to take her down and then set that up for the next play.
So now Giants should be looking to play towards the top side of the map, try and get Ruin into a position where he can start sieging, or at least take the tower down and then start roaming around the map. Because remember, one of Ruin's greatest strengths was how he got lane leads and then transitioned them to the rest of his team. Now, during the laning phase, he hasn't built a massive lead. Chachi has played this laning phase very well, even though both these top laners, while at the start of the split were OP, have received nerfs since then. It's clearly demonstrated that Chachi holding his own and demonstrating his individual prowess.
I mean, it felt like every time we looked up there, Chachi was playing forward, was playing into Ruin's face, and yes, we've only had 11 minutes of laning. It's even as far as the CS is concerned, and Chachi's hit so many of those searing charges. There's support now coming up, so let's see. There's the eruption coming up. Ruin may line himself up. Very good knock-up. The Forge God is called. That's a defensive flash from Ruin. And now Schalke have got some support to push down the tower.
Now, it's good of Giants to recognize that this swap was going to come through. It had to have happened because there's nothing left on the bot side of the map for Upset and Vanda to really play towards. I would have liked to have seen them be a little bit quick on the trigger so that Joko and Betsy were in a position to try and set up either a gank or a counter gank. Instead, they were a little slow on the play. Schalke were able to get the flash out from Ruin. He's now going to be forced into the bot side, and it's important that they set up vision to make sure that he's in a safe situation, because without the safety of a tower, there's always that risk of a 3- or 2-man gank towards the bot side.
Okay, all of that gold lead that Schalke have built up, it's down to 800 at this point. Some CS advantages and obviously kills in the way of Giants. But Schalke are the first team to move around the map. They've grouped top, they're now, repositioning middle. It feels like they're looking for a pressure point. It feels like they're looking for a way to push in, and they haven't fully committed to either lane just yet.
I mean, what Schalke's looking for is to use the strength of their bottom lane to continue sieging on these early towers. They're trying to play very much what Deficio described early on, which was through the map, by having clean overall macro play, where you don't really win through early kills and early snowballs. You just slowly take control of the game through objectives, and you take these outer towers down. It's a step-by-step process. And what often happens is a spanner will be thrown into the works, and that's where things start to get a little bit chaotic. And if any team is going to throw a spanner, it will be Joko and Giants. So just keep your eyes for that as he shines his little spanner.
Well, Joko giveth and taketh, right? His first gank giveth away the lead.
I would blame Targamas more, but yes, I agree.
I'm going to point, I need my carnivorous analogy to work.
Okay.
But look at the EU LCS standings really quick. Schalke, 5 wins, 9 losses. Giants, 6 wins, 8 losses. If Schalke can maintain a lead, if Schalke can pick up a win here, they will be tied with Giants at 6 and 9. Rock at 6 and 8. The potential to also be 6 and 9. Unicorns who lost already 6 and 9. It is so close to playoffs. And I said something a little earlier today on Twitter that the result of the game impacts more than just the two teams playing. It directly impacts everybody else in that close-knit race. And it makes it a very interesting end to the split. One of the most interesting splits we've had in Europe in a very long time. The competitive level between the top and the bottom a lot closer, and that's why we're getting so many just fantastic results and interesting things to talk about.
Agreed.
Thank you, Vedius.
Great, very eloquent point.
I can tell you're enthused by it as well.
I am. I get so caught up in the game of macro League of Legends that sometimes I get distracted.
Well, tell me what I'm missing, right? What is Schalke maybe not unlocking? Because it looks like they've put about 2,700 wards to push down this top tower.
So, I mean, what they're looking for is like a dive on top, but they're actually super paranoid of making the play because they're worried about like TP from Ruin and like, oh, what if Betsy roams up? And it's one of those things where you're like, it's actually really easy for them, or it should in theory be really easy for them to secure this tower if they're just willing to make a little bit of a sacrifice elsewhere. Like, Nukeduck can push mid, roam top. They then send 4 members up to the top side, and top either back or they die. And because they have control over the game, Schalke should have control over the game, it's on them to make the plays happen. But instead, Giants is just like happily farming away. Notice how the Steelback isn't really falling that much further behind. They even used the Rift Herald mid, which is super weird. And now Ruin's starting to kill Chachi.
Well, the Rift Herald mid was about to time out. Versachachi's trading back and forth with Ruin. I take it back. Ruin is beating Versachachi down using the Mega Gnar kit. And as that starts to time out, he's going to back away. And by the way, I'm looking at these 2 top laners. I'm not seeing a super early rush for that banner of command. Last weekend, so 18 times in the top lane, twice from the jungle, 13 times from supported, was the birth of the Bannon minion meta. But it was really just one game where it was like game-endingly quick. And then after that, a lot of teams adapted, a lot of teams showed initiation tools and minion dematerializer tools, but it's interesting this game that neither team has gone for that yet.
I think that they'll focus on trying to get a first item and then go for its second. At least that's what I'm expecting from Chachi. But you're right in the sense that I think teams have found a way to answer it. Looking at some of the minion dematerializers, there are actually none. From what I can see in this game. So both teams clearly not relying on the Baron, or at least losing the Baron, perhaps I should say.
And Vedius, Schalke pulls a Schalke. It felt like 3 or 4 minutes of setup of pressure in that top lane. All of those wards are now died and cleared out. Giants just group and push middle and brute force their way to their first tower of the game, evening up the gold lead.
But I really want to illustrate, like, think about the amount of time that Pride was literally just dancing around the river. He wasn't threatening under tower. He wasn't grouping with Upset and Vander. He wasn't proactively saying, I can dive you back away from the tower. He was just kind of around, ready to listen to the next call. And it's Giants that are the ones that are actually being proactive. They're saying, okay, we have Rift Herald. Where can we put it? We can put it mid. Okay, let's abandon top. Let's group mid. Let's siege the tower. Let's take Drake. And oh, we can also get bot tower because now we have more members. Ornn can't actually stay underneath this tower. And they're actually the ones just playing the game better right now.
Yep.
And they've equalized the goal lead.
Yep, taken that 2,000 deficit, turned it into an equal. They got 2 towers and a dragon for Schalke's single. We're scaling in terms of the arms race. 1 item across the board for most. Vizichachi just hasn't backed in a while. So he's sitting on a couple of components, gone for that thrift shopping approach. And we're just going to set ourselves up for those mid-game team fights. Giants, however, didn't really panic. They didn't worry about the grouping that Schalke was doing in the top lane. And for Giants, they're going to be pretty content. When you've got a Gnar that can split push a little later, when you've got the Vlad, Xayah, Rakan, there is some combination, but maybe in my head, I feel like Schalke outscale a little bit in some places. Who would you give the later game to? It's tough.
I mean, I think I would give it to Schalke, only because if you compare Caitlyn and Xayah, the range that Caitlyn has, if she was on the same items, it would be easier for her to do damage than it would for Xayah. But you also have a lot of burst on the side of Xayah, and the combo of Xayah Rakan also gives you a little bit of extra late game value. Azir and Vlad both fairly evenly matched.
But they do different things, right?
Yeah, exactly, right? So I'd say it's relatively close. I'd say Schalke do have the slight edge just because they're a slightly better 5-man team with an Ornn rather than a Gnar, because Gnar is much better in side lanes and his ultimate is very conditional, whereas Ornn is kind of like, I can use my ult whenever I want and it's really easy for me to start fights. So only slight edge to Schalke, but still very, very close.
I have another question for you about your favorite Giants player.
I don't have favorites, Trevor.
Let's talk about Ruin.
Okay.
No, your most impressive Giants player. Let's talk about Ruin. He's on Gnar. He's on the champion that I actually really like watching him on.
Yeah.
And he went even in lane, despite all the pressure, despite the problems.
Sure.
His tower's down. let's see what is Ruin going to do in this game, in this composition. Because it feels like he's going to have to play the Silence, especially with, you know, Black Cleaver already.
I mean, he's going to try, like, the thing about Giants comp is, notice how Betsy's now swapped over to the Ghost. I imagine when Baron spawns, you should swap over to TP. He may then take responsibility over bot lane, but he could also just sit top and then use the Ghost to help get him into fights. But they have the 1-3-1 setup, is the point I'm trying to get at for Giants. And they can split apart this Schalke roster. And I think that'll be the primary way in which they'll play the next couple of minutes, because they want to avoid the grouping power spike that a Schalke does have. And they'll wait to try and take advantage of a situation where Vladimir has got 2 to 3 items, Steelback has completed his attack speed item plus the Infinity Edge, and then they'll feel slightly more comfortable towards fights. But right now, just splitting Schalke up and playing all 3 side lanes is a much easier way for them to play the game.
Man, it's insane how much you can feel the pressure of the game, the pressure of Week 8, of the standings. Very passive, like, it feels like a very deliberate early game on both sides. And Upset's doing all that he can to push Targamas and Targamas and Steelback away. And I see another different item build. 8.4, AP items changed. We've seen a couple of different second items on Azir. I think this is the first time I've seen the EU, the Banshee's Veil second.
Okay.
Do you like it or not like it?
So, against this comp, I think it's okay versus Vladimir, because typically, so you got to remember that Vlad's engage comp in a team fight would be something along the lines of Q, ult, into E, and then another Q, so that you get 2 rotations of the Q off during the ultimate. But what Nuktuk is probably hoping is to mitigate some of that initial burst, and if he gets to spell shield the Vlad ultimate initially, well, that's a lot of damage that he's able to avoid as well. So in that sense, I kind of get it, but I think I would have preferred him to just kind of rush damage, because his positioning and use of the wall should kind of like mitigate a lot of that.
Yeah.
It could also be the threat of Targamas that he's worried a little bit about, but the charm can come in, and he will spell shield that, but it doesn't mean he dodges the knockup. So he's still going to have to react to that, even though it is something that he will be able to avoid.
Well, it definitely feels like this is going to be a game defined by Baron. It definitely feels like we're going into the late game and around that objective. And Schalke have had some questionable Baron calls in recent weeks. Looking at the patch and some sort of average Barons, I felt like we had a lot earlier Barons last week, and you can see first Baron time, it's around 25 minutes. We'll look at the stats a little later as the fight breaks out. Schalke not yet able to kill Joko. Upset steps all the way forward, forced to flash defensively. Nuktuk's late to the fight, and Ruin's already got the first kill. Now Targamas goes golden thanks to the stopwatch. Buys a little bit of time. On the back end, Nuktuk uses the Emperor's Divide, dashes away to safety. Hemoplate will pop, but not taken down yet until Betsy gets one more shot. Lenore into the wall, and Ruin will get taken down. Upset still putting the damage thanks to the range on Caitlyn. It's a 2-for-2, and Giants are running away. I stand corrected. It is a 2-for-1. Now Vizichachi's the next target. He's forced to flash defensively. It was so close, but Giants end up winning the fight.
Fantastic fight there for Giants. They were in a position to set up for the Baron, but they decide not to commit. Schalke still sticking around. But let's see how that all kicked off. Now, I feel like there was a bit of indecision here from Schalke, because they saw Joko out of position, wanted to commit, but then didn't hard commit to it. Notice how Pride throws out the ultimate, throws out the W, and then immediately disengage, where Upset's kind of coming in like, oh, I can get this last hit, then forced to flash. Now he's not in the fight at all anymore. This is not a 4 versus 4 where Joko and Upset are out of the fight. It's like Upset does nothing. Ruin is still able to influence the backline. Betsy's able to get a kill onto Nuktuk with the help of his support. And it was basically a situation where it's not until the end of the fight where Upset's able to get the kill onto Ruin that he actually has impact. So I felt like it was simply a coordination effort coming out from Schalke, where Upset couldn't really get onto the targets that he wanted to. He does a lot of initial damage onto Joko, but outside of that, he couldn't really contribute that much more to the fights.
No, just zoned away a little bit as we hit a mid-game pause. I'll get an update as soon as I can before Schalke. One thing is very clear. Upset is a threat. He did put down a lot of damage up front and at the end, and Ruin has not got a lot of armor yet to speak of. He's slowly chipped away from. And that's where my eyes are going to be as we get back into the game in a moment. Obviously, there's a Giants-related pause. Once I hear more information, I will let you know.
It is a Betsy pause, is what I've been informed.
That one was obvious to me because of the screen. But
Yes.
thank you for confirming.
But production
it.
pinged my in. They're like, hey guys, it's a Betsy pause. And I'm like, okay, I will tell them. Well, production has passed on this message.
You can always tell who's paused because the referee on stage walks over to the player and goes, "What's up, bruv?"
So that is common name and culture, I see.
That it is, indeed.
However, the ref is also talking to Nuke Duck.
See, now, generally, so the initial person will report a problem and be
Okay.
like, hey, I think a Nuke Duck Sand Soldiers kind of look like my mate Bob.
Right, got it.
And then they'll go check his Sand Soldiers, right? Now, that's the theory craft.
Yes.
You have to look at all angles.
And they can't
Anyways.
speak right now.
No, they can't.
But in an extended pause, there are some instances where they are allowed to communicate depending on the duration and the circumstances under which the pause
Exactly.
can occur.
So we'll stop waffling on this the story until we find out exactly why. But I want to bring us back to the amount of pressure on these teams' shoulders, the amount of pressure when both of these teams, they had expectations at different times. Schalke came into the split with higher expectations than Giants.
Sure.
Giants performed very well in the opening split, built up expectations, and then both of them disappointed everybody that believed in them. And it's a matter of now salvaging the end of the split and making up for past mistakes.
So I would challenge that just a little, only because I think that for Giants, expectations were actually very low coming into the split anyway. Like, when you actually look at who the roster is in Ruin, who was the only remaining player on this roster. Originally, he was part of the Vitality squad, you know, Gilius and Jizuke and that lot. He was part of that team in Challenger. Many considered him to be the weak link. Many considered Cabo to be an upgrade from him. And then he comes into the LCS with players who never really achieved a huge amount on the LCS stage, and expectations were that they wouldn't really achieve a huge amount again. They just kind of, the roster was kind of thrown together, and you look at it and you're thinking, I would not hope for a lot from this team. And then they kick off the split extremely well. Many teams and pros and analysts said, you know what, at the end of the split, they're going to end up falling off. They're going to be figured out. They're not going to adapt. They can only play late game. This is not a good team.
Yeah.
And then, while they did go 0-2 last week, they also had a great week the week before. And this week, like, expectations are that they will be able to come in and have another strong week. And they're actually the favorites against Schalke. So in terms of, like, expectations versus reality, I think Giants can be fairly happy with how their split has gone overall, because they've constantly been looked down upon, and then they've often been able to meet or go above expectations and what people think.
The irony is, going above those expectations then raises the expectations.
It
and
does.
Now all of a sudden we're almost a little disappointed, right? It's amazing how that works out. I have received an update from our production team. There was a reported bug, according to the players, that relates to an item usage. So our league officials are reviewing the footage. They have the ability to log in and review from a player's perspective as well as from our perspective on the spectator side. So while they are reviewing that footage, we will keep you informed on anything that is updated and any breaking information. And then we get to carry on waxing lyrical. Do you like the Bannon minion meta that evolved in 8.4? Because I love it.
So I've actually been in many deep discussions with kind of many people throughout Riot about this. And it's actually very fascinating, the different opinions that I've had. But I'm in alignment with many of the NA casters, which is that the Bannon minion better enables you to utilize the Baron buff, right?
Right.
And you are not punished for going up against a comp that just has heavy wave clear and is effective at actually getting you advantages and rewarding you for your play, which was securing yourself the Baron. So I think back to like Sivir and Caitlyn and Azir and like, I mean, Ziggs has been an example. But I like look at all these heavy wave clear champs and I'm like, oh, I have Baron and I can't end the game and you're just being really obnoxious. But then you have this Baron minion and he comes along and he's like, I outrange you fools. I can take a tower and at least you get one inhibitor, right? And in my eyes, I'm like, that is a good thing. And teams are finding ways to adapt. The really cool thing that I saw from Misfits versus Fnatic last week was they actually stood slightly ahead of their tower and drew the Baron minion aggro. So it couldn't hit their tower. They created enough pressure that if you engage on us, you're close enough to our tower that you'll
get a disadvantage.
Yeah, and we're actually stopping your Baron minion engaging on us. So like there are strategies in place. Teams have been creative, and I don't think that it's so broken and overwhelming that it can't be dealt with. But it also rewards you for a reward that you have gained.
The irony is, Rocket utilized it so well, and Giants got crushed by it so badly that the very debut of that strategy on LCS stage
it's very true,
made it look a lot more
Yes,
powerful.
and it's even funnier when you hear that a lot of the other pros didn't even realize how strong it was
There we
until
go.
they saw that game.
They're very lucky that Rocket made it look so good. I do have an update for you. League officials have reviewed the footage, and they have confirmed that it is not a bug, it was player error. So we will be resuming the game very, very shortly, loading back up, and of course, it is within the pro player's rights to ask the question. Ask for the footage to be reviewed, much like many, many sports, having the ability to throw the flag on the field and ask for a referee review. So, we get ourselves back into game. It is a small gold advantage for Giants, thanks to that previous team fight. But more importantly, for the last 10 minutes, Giants have been bouncing back from the early deficit they found themselves in from the kills that they donated in the bottom lane.
Now, Schalke is setting up for the Infernal Drake that just spawned. Giants secured the Mounted, but Schalke are on their way to getting the second Infernal. Looks like Giants are not in a position where they feel comfortable trying to go for this fight. So instead, they're going to back off and give it away. I do believe that it will be another Infernal on the table as well. Giants will definitely not want to give that one up for free.
How lucky are we that we've had about 4 or 5 Infernal
This will
Drakes
be our
spawn
5th Infernal, yeah.
already?
It's great.
Yes.
We had a lot of clouds and oceans last week, so I am pleased to see the slight deviation. And now Schalke securing themselves another tower. Gold's still very even though Schalke have the tower advantage. Joko, don't fight here. Not smart. Betsy doesn't have teleport and isn't in a position to assist.
And of course that means nothing's going to happen. It looked a little close. I held my breath, getting ready for a fight. But I'm going to bring us back to the story that we had just before the pause.
Yes.
It is that this game definitely feels like it's going to be determined by Baron, either securing it, playing around it, making a mistake by it. And in terms of Baron control, Schalke are in fact worst in the league. They've conceded more Barons than they have secured. Giants, on the other hand, are at 4th. Now, of course, when you're in the middle of the table and you're at the bottom of the table, that will have a direct impact on your Baron control stats.
And that's your vitality.
Touche, too soon. But of course, Schalke, I remember last week even having a couple of poor Baron calls. Whoop, Vander's going to get jumped on. Black Shield buys some time. Cataclysm comes out from Joko. Pride is now the target. Betsy's come in from the side lane. The first victim to fall, though, is Joko. Defensive flash away. Call of the Forge Guard comes out. Knocked back, but no follow-up. Nukta gets one in reply. The fight is battling on multiple fronts. Upset takes one down in the jungles. You can see the support stop cheering. And all of a sudden, 3 members of Giants are down for only Pride.
Successful fight there for Schalke. They're able to punish the engage from Joko, and Upset utilizing the range on his Caitlyn to quickly melt through that front line. They've now got their eyes set on this Baron. There is no jungler on either side, and could Ruin try to secure this for his team?
Oh man, Ruin and Targamas is so low in HP, down to 1,000. Smited away, actually secured, in fact, by Upset's auto attack. And all of a sudden, Schalke regain control. 1,000 gold lead, Baron buff, and 2 Infernals.
So we were just talking about that Baron secure, and how Schalke have now been able to redeem some of their Baron stats, as Chachi is caught in the pit, has no flash.
There is some support, though. Upset is coming from the wings. Emperor's Divide comes out. All of a sudden, Nuktak is there, has helping out as well. Ruin fancies his chances. One more boulder toss forward, and actually will not come away with it. Ace in the hole! Upset scores from downtown!
And that's how the fight ends, but let's see how it began. Joko engages onto Vander of all people, and is not able to burst him down because the follow-up was not there in time. There was only Targamas. This means that Upset is able to melt through him, and a good Dark Binding there with the Cupcake follow-up from Upset enables them to get the kill down onto Betsy as well. While that was all happening, Nuktuk changed his target focus down onto Steelback, and they were able to secure themselves 3 very quick kills. So Schalke executed the fight well, but also the initiation there from Giants, a little haphazard, not quite as coordinated as they would have liked.
Wards win games, people! Of course, Targamas was recalling on top of a ward, which has allowed Upset to take him down. Upset has quietly grown in power. Infinity Edge, Static Shiv, Rapid Fire Cannon, got himself a Hex Drinker, Ninja Tabi, and the Executioner's Calling, a slightly defensive build. Now, Vander's going to get dropped so easily, and Chachi, is he going to finish this? Is he going to finish this? He does! Visit Chachi's got Call of the Forge Guard available to him. It's going to be a 5v4 at best. And remember, this is a Baron-empowered Schalke that has just lost a member of their team.
Vander didn't have flash after the earlier fight. Will mean that he loses his life, but Schalke still get another tower in their favor. Banner of Command has been picked up for Chachi, but they cannot take advantage of it right now, given that they only have 4 members. Pride, oh, he's in trouble.
All right, Cataclysm's not available for Joko, so we can't get locked in terms of chase potential. Nobody else follows up. 6 kills to 6 as we're approaching the 30-minute mark. And, you know, 3 items are completed. Leandries, as well as that Proto Belt, and Void Staff now for Betsy. Rapid Fire, Essence Reaver, Eye-Edge on the side of Steelback. The Zeke's Harbinger for Targamas.
Something we've been seeing a lot more commonly on Rakan.
I love the synergy with his ultimate. That little slow field, it just works and feels so good together.
Indeed. And I think that it fits fairly nicely. Spooky Ghosts have been picked up for Vanda. The return of them has made many people excited.
Myself included.
I'm personally not a fan of them because often mid laners pick them up and I'm like, great, I have to deal with these annoying ghosts as well as my mid laner. But for Vanda, I think it's a nice pickup, adds that extra bit of utility. And there we are. Bob the Bannon minion has returned.
Shall cast the Bannon minion in a Welsh accent.
Oh, God.
This next siege, if it gets some shots, we haven't heard it in a while. I spoke about my heritage. I think you should do yours.
Here we go. Bob the Bannon minion. Doing his best to stay alive, but he's in a 1v3. He can't handle the pressure. Bob ends up going down. Schalke lose Bob. Only sadness falls down onto Bob the Bannon minion.
Oh, it feels like such a long time. Thank you. Thank you, Berlin. He deserves that one indeed. Also, ironically, the head producer for EUL LCS was just next to me and he shook his head into the government. Sorry, Dick, that one wasn't for you. That was definitely for me.
Now, Dragon spawning, remember it's the 3rd Infernal of the game. Schalke already own 2. And Giants already being zoned out by the lone man upset. 4-1-1, looking to finally be that carry for the team that many have expected him to be.
Yeah, but how do you initiate past Caitlyn traps, Dark Binding, Call of the Vortex God, Emperor's Divine, like Giants are going to have such a difficult time. Where are they now? There's Ruin coming in from behind. Can he do it, Vedius?
Well, I hope that he can, because he does have the Mega Knot. Here he comes, here he comes!
All right, the Boulder Toss goes in. The Knot doesn't find a target because the Black Shield was flawless. Ruin's down to 300 HP, and the Forge God comes in. The Emperor's Divide sends all of Giants packing. They've lost the top lane on the side of Giants, but now all of a sudden there's a reply. 2 for 1. Upset, flashes over the wall. He's not done yet. Chasing Giants after the double kill secured. Steelback's running low, and the Janitor can't clean up this mess. A triple kill for Upset. Ace in the hole is still available to him. If a little bit more damage can be connected on Steelback, the kill is available, but 4 kills for 1, and the shocker calls from Berlin and Knights.
What looked like a great fight for Giants is mopped up by Schalke. Upset secures himself a triple kill. Schalke get themselves the Infernal Drake, and they are hunting for the final kill.
Oh, Steelback tries to get the burst damage down, but he's chunked. It's an ace, and Vedius, after 1 week of Irish in this studio, they've taught the Germans how to sing. Thank you for the calls, and this is how they did it.
So Joko, they want to try and set up the flank. The moment he sees Ruin in, he wants to follow up. But they don't land onto Nuke Duck or Vanda. Upset gets the Black Shield, and here, Betsy gets a great multi-man ultimate off, but then the Azir wall prevents any follow-up. Joko then dives in alone. Steelback isn't able to throw out damage, and I'd love to see the amount of damage Steelback was really able to contribute to that fight, because it felt like he was the one that was zoned out this time compared to Upset, who was just ripping through the front line. I mean, credit to Nuke Duck for having so much of an impact in that fight, but it felt like both carries on either side seemed to be trying their very best, but it was Schalke that ended up coming out on top.
Oh, they just got out of range of their gnarlity. It looked so good. The Emperor's Divide felt flawless. And it's so nice to see Upset flashing to close out a fight in confident fashion without being punished. Also, he's pretty much hit full build, by the way. More of Malmortius to complement his Mortal Reminder. And Schalke, 4,000 gold in the lead. They're setting themselves up to even the standings. They're setting themselves up to go 6-9, to tie with Giants, to keep their playoff hopes alive, but it's only 1 of 4 games left, so this is how you start the run.
Yeah, their strength of schedule is definitely a tough one. It will have the likes of Fnatic lying in wait over the next 2 weeks that they will have to find a way of getting through, but they still have to secure this game versus Giants. They're in a prime position for the Baron, which will be spawning in about 27 seconds. 8-1-2 right now is Upset, and he is the biggest terror that Giants have to find a way of dealing with. Flanks have not done it for Giants. An optimal team fight has not been found for this squad. And Schalke are on track to stop the 0-2 losing.
It's very interesting that all of Schalke's leads, in my opinion, have been gained by punishing a decision from Giants. We'll expand on that in a moment, as there is some pressure being set up in the middle lane. Banner of Command has been used by Chachi, and I'm looking at the waves. The Schalke map, not really the strongest pushing forward. Giants are still defending well. They've still got their base towers to defend, so this game is far from over, Vedius.
Well, ooh, here comes the engage. Chachi is trying to end it now.
Okay, very good call of the Forge Guard from Chachi. He's keeping the map split. It's a 1-on-4, top versus the rest of the map. Although Nuke Duck is going to help out Chachi. Ruin tries to crunch away to safety. Ace in the hole takes him down. Upset is now legendary at 9-1-2. Giants are on the wrong side of the map. They're down a man, and they're being forced backwards. Keep your eyes on Upset, as he's the damage dealer that will close this fight out. There's the Hemo plate coming down. Upset with the black shield. It's going to get popped. He's already shut down Rakan. He's going to die in the process, though. Now it's on Steelback. Steelback is killed by Nuke Duck. A triple kill, because the focus was on Upset. Nuke Duck wrecked Giants.
Exactly that. Quick shot went, Upset went down, Nuke Duck stepped up, secured a triple kill for the mid laner. They have the mid inhibitor in their eyes, and Schalke are looking to stop Giants.
Is this the game? 30-second death timers. The inhibitor turret falls. The inhibitor follows thereafter. 10 seconds for Ruin. Vanda will lead the way along with Nuke Duck, Pride, and Chachi. This would have been a 4-game losing streak for Schalke 04, but they are on to the Nexus turrets. Call of the Forge God to buy some time. The Nexus is the focus. The Glacial Fissure to stop any siege, and Schalke take down Giants.
Calm, collected composure from the Schalke squad. It ended cleanly. And it all started to snowball off of that bot lane play. Once Upset and Vanda got that early kill, they started to bring their pressure around to the rest of the map. And while they were a little slow, while we saw Giants trying to be proactive, when the 5v5 started, Schalke just outclassed that of Giants.
Oh man, what a game. Welcome back to the stage, Schalke 04. However, those reactionary plays to get a lead, while that worked, while it happened, you may not get those opportunities against the likes of G2. And of course, on the side of Giants, well, 0-3 now in the last few games. Tied in the standings with Schalke. And I love seeing the sportsmanship between the players. Hugs, former teammates, former friends, now enemies. I guess they can still be friends. But for Schalke, another breath of hope, another opportunity.
But it's still tough for them. 6-9 now in the standings. The fact that Unicorns lost and Giants lost means that the standings become ever so closer. Nothing's still yet to be locked in.
I have an update for you, Young Vedius.
Yes.
Nothing locked in for these two teams. However, with the 2 results today, for all of the Fnatic fans out there, Fnatic are guaranteed a playoff spot. The least surprising piece of information you'll hear today. However, it is now confirmed, and of course they are still fighting for the seeding, making sure they get the semi-final bye. They're set up in a great position to do so.
I believe that also means that the 1 in 30,000 chance of a unbelievable 11-way tiebreaker scenario is also dead.
Oh, why are you going to be the bearer of bad news,
because
dude? You bring the mood down now.
But I'm just saying, I know a lot of people are excited about it, so I got to deliver the facts, Trevor.
Yes, you do.
And while it is great for Fnatic, and it's great for the Fnatic fans, I'm sure they're going to look to bring out a convincing performance later on today.
And it is great for the Schalke fans as well, of which there are many here in the studio today. You guys at home, remember you are in charge of voting for player of the game. So for you guys at home, you have to vote for Upset, Nuke Duck, or Vanda. Only one of those 3. Go to Lolly Sports, you know how to find it, you know where to do it. You vote for your player of the game. Who is it?
Upset.
I said you have to do it on Twitter.
Oh,
Not now. You failed. Coming up next, it is Splice versus Misfits. It's a crucial fight in the race for that quarterfinal bye. Who will come out on top and skip the quarterfinals altogether? Find out in this marquee matchup. Argamos goes in for the initiation. Ignite is down. Vander turns around with the dark binding. Anti-Calibernet has been used. Summon a heal. Flash for flash. Double knock up into the Feather Storm. That's a kill onto Upset and Joko. Pride is now the target. Betsy's come in from the side lane. The first victim to fall though is Joko. Defensive flash away. Call of the Forge God comes out. Knocked back but no follow-up. Nukta gets one in reply. They've lost the top lane on the side of Giants, but now all of a sudden there's a reply. 2 for 1. Upset flashes over the wall. He's not done yet. Chasing Giants after the double kill secured. Steelback's running low and the Janitor can't clean up this mess. Close this fight out. There's the Hemo play coming down. Upset with the black shield. It's going to get popped. He's already shut down Rakan. He's going to die in the process though. Now it's on Steelback. Steelback is killed by Nuktak. A triple kill. The Nexus is the focus. The Glacial Fish